Hey everyone, and welcome back to my completionist playthrough of the Baldur's Gate Saga with SCS. So continuing our adventures here in Ust Natha, after our battle against Quilyu and her servants, and now we can report back to the Aboleth and get that quest done. And he's going to be pretty satisfied with that juicy, tasty brain that we've brought him. And our reward is that we're not going to be discovered, at least because of him. He's not going to expose us, because that is actually one of the different outcomes throughout all this. For example, if you refuse to work for him, he is capable of planting that kind of thought into every Drow's mind here and making them all go hostile. Also, we get slightly less experience than in that scenario where we reverse blackmail him. But of course here we had this fun fight and all of the experience and enjoyment coming out of that. And now our dealings with the Aboleth are concluded. And we're going to go back to the tavern, because after rescuing Feyre from the clutches of the Mind Flayers, we were supposed to meet up with her here and see what she has to say.
Yes, without hesitation. It is you again.
And so we are going to be commended on how well we have done. Mother Argilus was pleased by your performance. Solofine's abilities are known to her, but she was delighted to learn you are such a powerful fighter. Ust Natha could use such as you, Veldrin. Amongst the Drow, only the strong survive. You could have slaves at your beck and call, rewards at your fingertips, the favor of Loth. How does that sound? Well, cool. What's the catch? The catch is that you have to earn that favor, Veldrin. Favor and comforts are not given out lightly. They must be purchased with blood and sacrifice. Why don't you go ahead and carve out her heart now, Feyre? You will get to that part eventually, won't you? So, as we've been able to observe, when it comes to Solfine, he is quite bold, at least for a male here in this environment, but he can afford to be like that. And we're going to learn more about that soon. And yeah, we're going to be given another mission, but not right away. Rest and amuse yourselves for a time. I shall be here a while. And yeah, then she's going to leave and meet us on that main platform, but here we can actually talk more with her and Solofine, ask them some questions. We can actually ask her about her conflict with Solofine. What's that all about? Let me just say that Solofine is too weak to be worthy of my respect. The matron mother would sacrifice him to the temple for his boldness, but he has allied himself with a powerful house, so the arrogant male walks free. But fortunes change, Veldrin. Fortunes always change. So yeah, it's not said which house in particular he has allied himself with, but yeah, he has some protection thanks to that, and House Despana, I guess, cannot directly threaten him without incurring the wrath of that other house. So yeah, we can ask about House Despana, that apparently exists in more places than merely Ust Natha, and that is true. They also are present in the city of Rilauven, and they also have a smaller faction in Menzoberranzan. I have many younger sisters scheming for my position. The more capable, both older and younger, I have poisoned or murdered as necessary. I am the strongest and eldest of Argilus's daughters now, and when she is weak and I kill her, I will become the matron mother of my house. So that's how it is in Drow society. Soon fortune shall move House Despana above all others in Ust Natha, and I shall be matron mother of Loth's most favored. Stay close to my path. And she's not going to be willing to reveal much more than that. You can also ask her about a dragon, because apparently we have heard tales of a silver dragon in the area. You need not worry about such tales any longer, Veldrin. Such a creature no longer possesses a threat to us. And again, she's not going to tell us more, but of course, she, from the way she talks, she must know something about those stolen eggs of Adalon. And we can also ask Solofine some similar questions. And he's not going to open up to us just yet. Yeah, he mentions his own alliances, that because of them, House Despana cannot take proper revenge against him yet. And he's going to not be too interested in all of the entertainments here. So basically, the more we're going to talk with Solofine, the more we're going to notice that he is not quite like the rest of the Drow. And he's not going to know too much about the dragons in the area, just some stories of an ancient dragon of silver. Perhaps the stories are true. So yeah, that's it for now. And Also, I have delayed talking to Nimkalaza until now, because now that we have progressed the main storyline a little bit more, and now we know about House Despana, we know about Feyre and Solifine, now we're going to actually be able to ask him some questions, and it's all going to make more sense now. And he is an old drow that is not going to be willing to share his own tales, but we are going to be able to ask him some questions. So we can ask him about Loth, and he's actually going to mention the other gods from the Drow pantheon. Veron, the thief god, and Ganandaur, the slime god of the caverns, are two of her most implacable foes. And then, of course, there is Ailistrae. The Dark Maiden is a good deity of our kind, if such a thing exists. She seeks to turn us from our path of darkness, you see. But such gods hold little truck with most of the Drow. Loth is paramount. The Spider Queen is a jealous goddess, reserving all worship for herself. Most Drow will not even breathe the names of others for fear of retribution. Myself, I am old enough to care little any longer. But yeah, of course, as a Drow we must know all that. About House Despana, a strong house, branches of which you'll find in cities other than simply Ust Natha. Many of the great families have their beginnings here in the first city, yes? Despana is high in Loth's favor, and many say that it schemes to place itself above all others here. But he doesn't know the exact plans. And now about Feyre and Solifine, the daughter of House Despana and the commander of the Male Fighters Society. Yes, indeed, there is a history there, if you have not heard it from elsewhere. It is said that the daughter Feyre held this Solifine in high esteem once, and not merely as a personal male, as Loth decrees. She did not use him and cast him off, as is a female's wont. It is said that Feyre held feelings for the commander that were most undrow-like indeed. The matron mother of Despana was greatly displeased by her daughter's weakness. What was done then, who knows? It is obvious they hold no regard for each other now. Yeah, and he of course mentions that protection that Solifine has, and he is actually going to know something really interesting about the Silver Dragon. He even knows her name, Adelon. It is said that the Silver Dragon once had a mate long ago, a mate who was captured by our people when we were still dwellers of the southern reaches. The heart of her mate was ripped from its body whole, as I hear. The Queen of the Drow used its heart in a ceremony of great darkness, one that angered an old pale god of the surface elves. I know not which one. Doesn't matter. When we were driven beneath the surface, sentenced by our fiendish cousins, their god made a pact with Adelon. In return for her vow to guard the old passages to the surface, he would give her what she desired most. At a time of her choosing, when she had grown old, Adelon could call on the god, and he would grant her children, eggs that would be made real by the soul of her lost dragon love. Or so the story goes. So, yeah, not only, all dragons value their eggs very highly, of course, but they are even more special for Adelon, because, the soul of her lost love, I guess, was used in the creation of them, I guess. So we can kind of forgive a little bit of her transgressions against us, now that we know that. And he is the only one that can really provide this insight, I think. Yeah, and I have heard the passages to the surface are open once more. At least the matron mothers certainly believe so, gathering their armies as they are. Perhaps Adelon is dead, I know not. So we've heard about these preparations for the armies, and of course we know from Adelon that she can no longer really guard the passages anymore. And yeah, here we're going to have some more fights. After this brief intermission, here is Sondal, and this is a dueling arena where Drow can actually fight each other. And we're going to have quite a few fights in here. And apparently we are just in time for some kind of a fight between Drow. He's going to mention that a little bit later. Yeah, well-respected females such as yourself will know that the only opponent worthy of the Drow is another Drow. I provide that opportunity. Yeah, so here we're going to have a fight about to happen. The pride of the males of the first house, Master of Blades Lasaunar, is here to prove his ability to us all. And he accepted an unusual challenge against 4 other guys from the Male Fighters Society. He's going to face all of them at once. And we're going to be able to see this fight here with Lasaunar just handily killing all of them. just have to wait it out. But we can see that Lasaunar actually can deal some fire damage on hit. So he has a special weapon, apparently. Yeah, so here basically no matter what we say, he's going to issue a challenge. Let's be unfriendly to him, of course. Who slanders me? Step into the pit if you think yourself better than I. Yeah, of course we accept the challenge. We are going to go in with Senashira here. As you could see, we had an opportunity to choose like whoever we wanted, but Senashira is going to do most of these fights here. Let's just give her some mirror images. And just destroy this dude. Hold. I yield. You have proven the better combatant this day. I yield the victory. My sword is yours. I no longer deserve it. So, weird notion of honor among the Drow here. But yeah, we get a nice chunk of experience, 30,000, and his sword, and Sir Animan leveled up. And yeah, here's Chalinthra, whose name is pretty similar to Chandrila, that cleric from the Surface band of adventurers, or Chalimandrin from Icewind Dale. But anyway, no matter what we respond with to her, she is also going to issue a challenge, because Lasaunar was apparently her favorite male. A debt of honor that we have to pay. And when it comes to her, we are also going to answer that challenge and fight her with Senashira, with Veldrin. Veldrin needs to, you know, make a name for herself here. In Ust Natha, needs to prove herself. And Chalinthra is not going to have any chance, basically, against Senashira. She is only level 16, she doesn't have, you know, the greatest of pre-buffs here. And also scavenge some stuff that these guys dropped. And yeah, she just doesn't have anything to respond with, I guess, against Senashira. And this is a fight to the death. Like, she did not survive that. Alright, and we get 12,000 experience more for that. Alright, I'm just going to quick save, quick load to fix the combat music. It's always going to bug out here. And the next 3 fights here are going to be mage duels. We are going to have to delegate one of our wizards to fight some kind of a drow wizard. And we're going to do these 3 fights with like one of our mages each, I think. We're going to give a chance to everyone here, let them shine a little bit. But first let's level up Animan, and I believe, yeah, now that he has reached over 3 million experience, now he's going to have access to high level abilities, which is something new now. As you can see, this we cannot accept the level up here until we have chosen these high level abilities that he is going to gain every level now. He also gets an additional level 7 slot, and his Thaco is improved. So here, let's talk briefly about all of these. Energy Blades. We've seen on the Lich Alcra. And this is basically a high-level ability that is available to both Divine and Arcane casters. It's a highly enchanted projectile, kind of a buffed-up Melf's Minute Meteors that deals electrical damage, has a massive Thaco boost, and sets your attacks to 9 per round. And it's useful in certain situations. It has its uses, but mostly in like more around, or more in like smaller parties, or if you're soloing. This is going to be one of our last choices here for Animan. Then we have Storm of Vengeance, which is not a direct upgrade to Firestorm, although it kind of looks, or might look like it, because there are certain similarities. This is also, you know, an AoE kind of cloud spells, but it lasts for 1 round less than Firestorm. Firestorm is 4 rounds, and it also deals way less damage. But both of these storms, both Firestorm and Storm of Vengeance, have their place, because Firestorm is going to be way more damage oriented. If you can deal fire damage to something, Firestorm is the way to go. It's going to deal way more damage than Storm of Vengeance. But Storm of Vengeance, as you can see, offers us 3 sources of damage: electricity, fire, and acid, and it can also poison. There are some saving throws involved in that, whereas Firestorm has no saving throws attached to it, so that also contributes to its higher damage. But this Storm of Vengeance is more for like interrupting casters, because it's an AoE spell. It also, just like Firestorm, bypasses magic resistance, which is a big plus about this spell. And you know, it's way more difficult to protect yourself against all of these types of damage than it is to protect yourself against Firestorm. So we are going to pick this soon, but not yet. Here we have Elemental Summoning. This is something that allows us to summon more powerful elementals, and then after that there's also Greater Elemental Summoning. But I think Jaheira is going to like focus on summons a little bit more, I think, rather than Anomen. We'll see how that's going to go. Globe of Blades is basically a direct upgrade to Blade Barrier, but it's not like that impressive. The damage here, instead of 8d8 of Blade Barrier, is 10d10. So instead of 8 to 64, this can deal from 10 to 100. So this is kind of significant. And there's also a penalty of -2 on its saving throw. But other than that, it's basically the same. And but the most important thing to consider here is that, of course, this is going to be memorized as a level 7 spell, whereas Blade Barrier is only level 6. And that's a very important thing when considering these two spells. Then we have Summon Deva, and we're going to talk about this in a second, because this is going to be our pick, I think. There's also Fallen Deva for evil clerics. And then we have Implosion, which is a really solid spell. It deals massive fire damage and blunt damage. There is a save versus spell for half, but still, 2 types of damage. It also bypasses magic resistance, which is very important, and its cast time is not too bad. So it's kind of like an upgrade to Bolt of Glory, but much better. Then Mass Raise Dead is going to be our last pick, definitely. It's just like, what is this even? You know, we can just cast Raise Dead a couple of times, or use our, you know, Rods of Resurrection and whatnot. We're not going to consider that until last, because we are going to eventually get all of those. And here there's Aura of Flaming Death. We have seen this on that Baldur in the Underdark. So this gives us 90% fire resistance, a bonus to armor class of 4. It also makes you immune to non-magical weapons, and of course it returns fire damage to attackers. So for a cleric like Anomen, kind of like a frontliner warrior type cleric, this is going to be actually pretty useful. So we are going to certainly pick Storm of Vengeance, Implosion, and Aura of Flaming Death. Maybe not necessarily in that order, but those are going to be our picks. But first, of course, we're going to summon that Deva. And also, when it comes to that 90% fire resistance, this is not something to be relied upon too heavily, because of course clerics cannot make themselves immune to being dispelled and whatnot. So you know, we're not really going to place too much faith in that part of Aura of Flaming Death. But anyway, that Deva is a celestial summon, and that's a separate group of summons, whereas, you know, normally we have a summon limit of 5, but when it comes to celestial, there is only a limit of 1. And in the classic Baldur's Gate 2, there were ways to kind of bypass the different limits and whatnot, and I think most of them are fixed in the Enhanced Edition, and even if they aren't, I'm not going to abuse those. But anyway, celestials are gated, so they cannot be destroyed by death spell. And this is, now we are really entering the realm of like really powerful summons. In Baldur's Gate 2, there are basically like 3 tiers of these celestial beings, and Deva being the lowest, tier 1, and then we have the Planetar, which is kind of an upgrade to it, and then we have the Solar, which we're not going to be able to summon in any way or have them help us, but we are going to fight against some fallen Solars. But anyway, before our mages, I think, get access to the Planetar, I think we're going to try to make some use of that Deva. This is basically like a 7th party member, because she is considered to be level 25, has 165 hit points, it's immune to fire, electricity, and cold, has 70 magic resistance, can see invisible, is immune to like different status effects like charm, confusion, some instant death, even backstab actually, is also immune to non-magical and +1 weapons, and wields the Mace of Disruption, actually, so can instantly slay undead, can stun also, and has a 25% chance to dispel the target, considered as a level 15 dispel magic, and has 2 attacks per round, and also some spells at her disposal. So yeah, this is essentially kind of like a 7th party member. That summon is so powerful. And let's actually memorize one, and maybe we're going to have some good situation to showcase her abilities. And before we go upstairs, that we are going to explore soon, let's actually do these arcane fights. And for these we are going to have to prepare our mages. And I think Edwin is going to be kind of encumbered soon. Oh yeah, and also we need to rearrange these. Here's that sword that we received from Lasaunar. Blade of Searing +3. A +3 enchanted bastard sword with +1 fire damage on it. So it definitely like fits here, but if you remember from that soul prison of the Drow a little bit earlier in the Underdark, we could get Jor the Bleeder, a +2 a bastard sword with bleed. So again, this is kind of my complaint, that these swords should have been spread out a little bit better. Jor the Bleeder should have been available somewhere earlier, but anyway. We're going to have to prepare for some mage fights here, and I think I'm going to give this Book of Infinite Spells to Edwin. Also, when it comes to Albruin, we might have a use for that Detect Invisibility, but we'll see about that when Imoen's time comes. And yeah, right now just this Book of Infinite Spells we're going to use to pre-buff Edwin with. Yes. And we have Chaotic Commands already, but let's give him a protection from magical energy and protection from fire. I think we're going to give him. We might also buff ourselves up with Remove Fear. And we're going to need to apply some anti-spell protections here. So Spell Shield is going to be necessary. Then we're also going to give him Spell Turning from our book. Alright, and he has some scrolls also, because I don't want to rest before that. Of course, that would help us a lot, resting, but we're going to have probably some need for scrolls, but you know, that's what they are there for, just to make things a little bit more interesting. I'm not going to rest, but we're going to you know, resolve potential problems here with some scrolls, I think. So the first mage is actually the most high level one, I think, and this is going to be our toughest encounter. So this is going to be pretty interesting, sending Edwin in there instead of like Senashira, for example, who would have an easier time. But we're going to talk about that guy in a second. Now let's just think about what else do we need. We definitely need some mirror images, and we definitely need spell immunity to abjuration. And also, we're going to give Edwin some rings. And I think this should be it.
Yes, it will be done.
Do not question the matron mothers.
Yeah, so we're going to send Edwin in there. A wizard's duel. Mage versus mage. Right, so he has his pre-buffs, he has spell turning, but basically nothing else when it comes to spell protections. And he is not invisible, and he rarely ever is, I think. That's why I sent Edwin first, because Edwin, of course, as a conjurer, does not have access to divination spells. So even, you know, if we had a scroll of true sight, he wouldn't be able to use that and reveal the opponent mage. And now when it comes to these mages, they of course have an inherent advantage over us due to their very high magic resistance. I think these ones are also in the 70s. So damaging them with spells and just affecting them with spells is not going to be, you know, we're not going to be too successful with that. So we're going to have to use some other ways of getting to them, and we're going to have some summons at our disposal. And also, this guy is level 16 or level 17. The bottom line is that he has access to level 8 spells. Like, he has some horrid wiltings, most likely. So that's why we have that protection from magic energy, and we really have to make an effort to keep that and not get dispelled. And also I should have applied improved invisibility, but let's actually cast that now. Alright. Now what we're going to do, seeing that he has spell turning, we're going to dispel that with our secret word. Alright, boom. Next, Edwin has... Do not have Breach available to you anymore, Edwin. It seems like you do not. But we have a lot of scrolls of that. So let's equip these rings. These rings, both the Victor and Ring of the Ram, have the advantage of being considered level 0 spells, going through different protections, and they also bypass magic resistance. So when worst comes to worst, we can like interrupt his important spell with one of these rings. Well, we're going to see what this situation is. Alright, so our spell shield got dispelled, which is a little dangerous, but we are not going to be able to be affected by spell thrust because we have that spell turning. So I think we are still safe, but I want to remain... don't have any more spell shields. Although we do have some scrolls, I think. But anyway, we're going to have to be careful not to be able to be affected by remove magic and losing all of our protections and whatnot. Right, so now he is out of his physical protections, and he is most likely going to have some death spells. So actually, let's bait some of those by using our Wand of Monster Summoning. Alright, he actually has a spell trigger now. With Spell Deflection, Spell Shield, and Protection from Magical Weapons. But I think summoning some of these summons, well, that happened anyway, they have normal weapons, so they are actually going to be able to threaten him a little bit. Alright, the Direwolf has a magical weapon, but I think the Gnoll Elite, and there's also a Hobgoblin. Yeah, they should be able to get through to him, so we'll see how they do. Wow, the Gnoll Elite, nice crit there, dude. Wow. I think an opportunity presents itself so that we can just finish him off, I think. Without dragging this fight on. Boom! I certainly expected a much longer fight than that, but these monsters coming from the Wand of the Monster Summoning, well, as you can see, they can be really useful in certain situations. And actually, now, let me just get some stuff out for Imoen. She is going to do the next fight. Where's that Albruin sword? Let's have that prepared just in case. And of course she is massively encumbered. You know what? We have some scrolls with better stuff than that. We're also going to use some Drow bolts of stunning, because these mages can be stunned. And we're going to, of course, prioritize the Drow bolts here, because we're not going to be able to use them anywhere else. Because, of course, they are going to get destroyed once we go to the surface. Alright, now she is not encumbered. And we're going to apply some protections on Imoen as well. She does not have much, I have to say. But let's have Spell Shield. That's going to protect her. That is going to protect her from Breach as well. She has stone skins. Let's just apply some mirror images. These fights should be much easier. I think the next mage is actually the lowest level of them all. And actually, let's give her Edwin's scroll case, just in case. Well, she's probably going to need some spells.
What is it? Certainly.
And cast from scrolls. Alright, so another mage wants to test his mettle against us. Alright, the summons are still there. Let's not be unfair to him and actually pull them back a little bit. Alright, so he has improved invisibility on him through Shadow Door, but no other spell protections. So, unfortunately, we don't have that memorized true sight on Imoen anymore, but we have a scroll. And we're going to use that now. He just wants to be close to these summons, man. Alright, now we have revealed him. Let's always try to shoot him once with our crossbow, once in round. Also, another viable option is going to be switching to the two-gun bow, so that we have 3 attacks per round, and just trying to cut through his stone skins and his protections together with our summons. But for now, let's actually try to stun him. She did fire that bolt and missed, I guess, because he didn't have to save against that. Oh no, of course, he has protection from magical weapons still on him. And do you have memorized breach? You do not. So we're going to have to get a scroll of that. Alright, her spell shield was dispelled by this guy's spell thrust. Alright, but we have removed his protections now. Just chain lightning cast by him. Alright, he did make his save. So unfortunately we did not stun him. But that's okay, we have other stuff in our arsenal. This berserk warrior coming from the Holland of Valhalla has been pestering us even more from our bag of holding. And telling us like, let me in, coach, I can do it. So let's give him a chance. Maybe bait some death spells. Alright, lightning bolt was cast on the other summons. I don't want them to engage here just so that it's not like unfair. These summons are unfortunately do persist between fights, but I don't want to have an unfair advantage there. Alright, he did save against death again, but we have these Kuotawan bolts now. And we are going to be able to try our luck with that. Alright, he just cast a fireball that we were out of range of. Alright, he is making his saves like a champ there. What else can we offer him? We could dispel his minor globe and reach him with some spells, or we could actually go in and... yeah, but of course... why am I even considering that? Due to their magic resistance, of course this is not a good idea, and also, as you can see, we do not have control over this Berserk Warrior anymore. That's kind of the main downside of that summon. Alright, he's on the defensive, we're cutting through his stuff, and I think I am going to switch to the two-gun bow right now, and get ourselves some acid arrows. Of course, the acid portion of the damage is going to be mostly taken care of by his magic resistance, but there is a chance that some of it is going to go through and perhaps interrupt him. Alright, now we're getting to him, and boom. He is done. And then the last fight we're going to do with Senashira, I think. So thank you, Imoen. Let's just get our stuff back in position. Actually, this scroll case is now going to go to Senashira, who might need some spells. So this we can put back, and Senashira is not going to rely on such tricks, and I think Senashira is not going to have to rely on much at all, because she has her triple remove magic spell sequencer that we're going to use here. And yeah, this is the last challenge. And people are beginning to speak of the skills your group displays in magic. Of course, that means others wish to challenge you. We have a mage ready to accept. And Veldrin is going to go into the arena now. Alright, we still have all of these summons and whatnot.
Yeah, what is it?
Oh yeah, the Berserk Warrior we can control for a bit. Let's just pull all of them back. Alright, so this guy has Mantle, has a Globe, actually improved invisibility, minor spell turning. But let's see how our spell sequencer can do here. It was effective, and we're just going to take care of that mage. And let's see what other potions we can scavenge from here before we get ported out, and boom. I think the doors open now, by the way. Oh yeah, they do. Because this one was the left, and there are no other opponents. We have become quite the imposing figure. You are destined for good things if your matron takes notice. So yeah, we are making a name for ourselves here.
Yes, without hesitation.
Let's just check if this guy had any... Oh yes. Oh yes. He did. And that oh yes is of course an inside joke that I just keep saying to myself. That comes from that cutscene, beginning cutscene from Deus Ex. Probably like one person out there is going to kind of get that. But anyway, I think this is going to be it for this episode. We've progressed some storylines and had some nice fights in this dueling arena. And in the next episode, we're of course going to continue our exploration in Ust Natha and continue with the quests and missions that we are going to be given. So, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.